Welcome to the Cook-Up Show with your host, my best friend Jacob.
Today our show's ingredients include a fine sample from one Frank Dukes and Ille. That was a cat. Before we dive into it, I'm just going to give you a little preview of what we're doing today. We're going to be chopping up something from not the newest Kingsway pack, but one release ago. The homie Ille dropped his sample pack with Kingsway, Frank Dukes, and yeah, there was one sample in particular called Dirty Laundry, which I heard, and... Really, guys? Alright, so back to the show. The sample is Dirty Laundry, and I actually have footage of the first time that I heard the sample. And the place that we should definitely start is the sample. So that's how I interpreted it. Originally, the sample sounded like this. What I ended up doing, just to change the sample up a little bit, is I found the BPM, which was 83, and then I locked it to my grid, and I pitched the tune up about 3 cents. If you want to, and I would suggest that you do this until you do the export, put your samples on stretch once you have them locked to the grid. That gives you the opportunity, let's say right now we're on 83 BPM. If I go up to 100, I can simply hit play. That allows you to stretch the sample without worrying about the resampling, but when you're done, you should put it back to resample or auto for the best quality. As far as the effects that I have, I mean, this was pretty much perfect, so as you can see, I didn't actually add anything. The grit and, you know, the crackling and everything you're hearing, the equipment they're using, what Frank and those guys are able to do at his studio with all the analog gear really gives this a warm sound, and you know, the sound gives this a warm sound, a sound that you want to use, and I didn't have to do much to it. After locking the sample to the grid, switching up the pitch, I decided to chop it and move it around to different parts. So I have my part, which is the verse, the pre-hook part, and the hook part. I use Mixed in Key, which is a program which I will explain at another time, to find the sample's key. Obviously, I pitched it up 3, so I had to take that into consideration. I think it was F minor, potentially. And after that, I was able to build other sounds, other noises around that by knowing which key that I was in. So some of the sounds that I started off with were these. A cool little break before the hook and a snare. What I've been doing a lot of these days to my snares is actually running them, as you can see here, it's running through a couple different effects, but what I've really been using, what I've enjoyed using, is Outer Space plugin, which is just a delay, but I've been using the reverb only, which is kind of like a mono delay. So what I have here with the snare, show you what I have here with the snare. That's how it sounded. It's going through guitar rig, gives it a little space and a little bit of grit. This motion plugin by Waves, I use it quite a bit. I honestly just use the first preset. It gives a little space to everything. And then on top of that, I added the reverb. And the reason I added the reverb after the motion is I didn't want the reverb to be affected by the motion. So make sure that whenever you're putting your effects on in your strip here, that you make sure that you correctly put them in the order that you want them to affect each other. On top of that, I just have like a little one-shot guitar, which is also being run through the exact same channel, so that it kind of works together and it sounds like, but it's just a nice little build-up. I also added this little reverse here, so it's. As far as the drums, I kept it pretty simple. I've been trying to keep things a little more minimalistic lately. I started off with snare, which is the exact same snare that we just previously used without the effects. Pretty simple pattern. I added this hi-hat top end. I added this hi-hat. I added this hi-hat top loop. Pretty straightforward. Also added this rim shot. Added this hi-hat. Pretty straightforward. I'm not doing too much as far as my velocity controls go. Clap. And then the kick. I really like this kick. Pulse control. Once you add that in with the bass line, it's like. We ain't got there yet. Run, rewind. So yeah, once you put that together with the sample, we have the bass, the drums. Then we got some guitar that we ran through. Again, I'm going through that exact same. You know what? I'm realizing what I actually did do here is I would have created all these effects around this guitar, and I just decided for some strange reason, maybe possibly by accident, to run that snare hit also through that same setup, just so it kind of like mashes a bit together right before it leads in. So now it goes. For the verses, I kept them, a bit more stripped down. I tend not to do too many switch ups with my drums. I basically take sounds in or out. I put sounds in or out. So that's basically the final product. For the bridge, I just pitched this. This is actually a good thing to let you guys know. Now, because we did the stretching, you actually have a bit more control. So what would happen, and I'm just gonna, maybe I should do this in a different part so I don't really. Yeah, so let's say this was the sample. Let's say we decided to not stretch it. This gives us an opportunity to pitch it down or up, whatever we might like to do. But if you want to go even farther, what you could do is you could put this to 12, gives you one more octave. But as you see, the sample is now moving, which you don't want to happen. What I love about putting the stretch on is because it's linked there, it doesn't matter now that you move that. So you can now go from this to this, or vice This is really great to have, for instance, if you want to control L, that gets it on the strip. If you want to do gross beat, for instance, you want to take that halfway, but you don't actually want it to pitch down. Sometimes playing around with gross beat and doing the half speed, it's knocking it back. So you can use, you know, either of these just to get it back to a normal place. Let's say that. It's not going to get it back to the pitch that it was in. But if you had actually had your sample like we did at 3, you can use that to 3. And so now you're getting the effect. And that's the show for this evening, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in today. We'll be back around this time next week. It's going to be another cook-up show with some more special ingredients to make the best beats online.
Thank you!
That I couldn't hold it any longer. I couldn't hold it. My eyes are really watering right now.
Ooh, blessed fam.
YouTube internets, make sure you subscribe to the channel. More content coming every week. Also, give me that follow on Instagram at mybestfriendjacob with an underscore. Unfortunately, I couldn't get just at mybestfriendjacob. But that's life.